This time fields it on his own quarterway. Running hard and straight. Gets back to halfway, and a good run. There's a bit of a gap in the middle of the Wattles forwards there, but it closes now. Brett Stevenson decides to try and use that gap. Gets it back to Goodman, who knocks it back. Thompson comes up to pick it up and has held down the tackle of Richter's. Played away. On it comes towards Cherry. Cherry dummying, going on his own. Looks outside for David Packer, and he's pulled to the ground. He'll get up to play it. Ridge away from the dummy half. Running strongly, Les Ridge. Can't find Cherry and is put to the ground. Played away. On it goes. This time towards Goodman. Goodman straight and hard at the defence. Thompson running away. Beatson lobs it across Stevenson. Can't pull it in. Darren Thrupp can. Sprinting to the corner. Thrupp taken over the touchline. Last ditch tackle by Russell Jones for Cities. Taken over the touchline.
Once again, Bobby Thompson involved. Just wondering, Peter, whether they should have injected him into the match a little bit earlier.
Like about the start. That's my thoughts on it, but anyway.
It'll be a City scrum feed midway from, well, if you call that a scrum feed.
Barry Duff gets it out. 10 metres from the goal line. He's pulled out in the tackle of Brett Green. He'll get up to play it away to Russell Jones. From the dummy half, Jones runs straight at the tackle of Brett Stevenson. He's pulled to the ground. 23-12, Cities at the grand final in their keeping if they control possession. Away it goes this time to Michael Seaby. He's pulled down. We've got, I'd say, about 8 minutes of play remaining. Played away to Haddock. Haddock's pass on the blind side to Collins and then to Beatson. I'd like to know the number of times we've called that move today. To Beatson. 12 metres from half from the goal line. Oh, Eric Waldron caught in no man's land there. Then decides to go on his own and gets back to the quarterway with a strong run. Brett Green knocks him down. He'll get up to play it away to Haddock. Haddock's pass back to Collins. Collins chased by Thrupp this time. Now Collins can get his kick in. Danny Smith stands 10 metres outside his quarterway. Fields it better this time and runs. Straight towards Blake and Seaby, and the big fella puts him down. Good strong tackle there, forcing him back. Referee calls held on him. Gary Ladbrook goes to dummy half. Wattles a bit slow to recede. Gary Ladbrook stepping in the middle, taken down on halfway. Pulled to the ground as Neil Goodman goes to the dummy half. He'll get up to play it on the open side to Ridge. Ridge running at the defence, beats Richters. Richters grabs him by the legs and Lewis concludes the tackle. On halfway still, Wattles making no headway. John McEwen working at the centre, beats one, slips it back, the ball bouncing loose. Richter going back to fall on it there is Green, and back to first tackle as Brett Green bursts up towards the 10-metre line in Wattles territory before Tony Collins grabs him, pulls him to the ground, given away to Lothian, then to Cherry. Cherry with a pass on the outside to nobody, and Beatson can't pick it up. Thrupp goes back to pick it up, tries to step away from Duff and does. Back in the centre, steps away from Seaby, but a good tackle from the Seaby pulls him to the ground. He'll get up to play it. The dummy half position, played away this time towards Ferguson. Away from the dummy half he goes, splitting through Ferguson. The pass knocked down. Lothian can field it. Back to first for Wattles again. They're getting plenty of possession. They're not doing a lot with it. Lothian is pulled to the ground. It's up to play it away this time to Ridge on the blind. Ridge bumping at the defence. Looks for Ladbrook on the inside. The pass was forward. Ladbrook was away, but the pass was a good 18 inches forward.
Yes, certainly no doubts about that one.
Penalty? Yes, it was a penalty. Trying something, Les Ridge, and of course the pass rule forward.
Well, I suppose this stage of the game, Peter, they've got no option. They have to try things. Time running out. 23-12 they trail.
Eric Waldron kicks for touch. I think we've got the same penalty count as last week, have we? 3 apiece?
Yes, at the moment, 3-2 in fact to Cities.
Anyway, it goes this time away towards, who's that running? That's the number 5, Russell Jones, caught in the tackle of Goodman. 23-12, Cities at the grand final in their keeping now. There's only 5 of play remaining. I think you can safely say the 1990 crown has gone the way of the Gladiators. And it goes this time to Tony Collins. Out wide to Baker into the line. Lothian grabs him. They've made a lot more opportunities than Wattles. That's why they've won the grand final today.
Yes, I think they've been prepared to do the tough stuff, Peter.
Back it comes to Waldron in the centre. Yes, Wattles, I guess the worst thing that could have happened to them was to have that very convincing 22-0 win in the major semi-final. It made them a little bit complacent going into the day. But Cities have played well. You can't take it away from them. Created heaps of opportunity, just like Laurie Blake is now. Away he goes. Caught by Danny Smith as he put a chip and chase on for himself. Good tackle from Smith. He was under pressure. Where it goes this time towards Ricky Jones, but he's going to be pulled down. Lobs it back to Blake. If Blake puts it skywards, the referee's going to call a hand over that he called held on Ricky Jones before he lobbed it back.
I think the pass back to Blake may have been forward as well, but Laurie Blake was seen a Cities win without any
No, he hasn't weaved his magic on the game. He's did some good things, but he hasn't scored a try or like that. As it comes to Lothian, a short pass to Ridge. They're opening up out wide now. Ridge, the pass hitting Ladbroke. Ridge hitting Waldron. Ridge falls on it. He gets up and goes again. Lobs it back on the inside. Picked up by Thrupp, and Thrupp's jumped on by Jones. There's been some tiger in that defence of Cities in the second half. Last week, the last time they played, they gave up pretty easily in the second half in their defensive pattern. Brett Green up the centre has taken down 10 metres away from halfway. A try by Wattles would certainly make things interesting for the last couple of minutes of the game. Ferguson working strongly up the centre, 15 metres into Wattles to Mitchell, to whose territory? City's territory it is, and he's taken down, given away to Lothian. Lothian across the field, across the top to Stevenson, who pulls it in well. Stevenson back on the inside, looks for support. That's he's pulled to the ground. The tackle, the replacement Bartley, who's off for Cities, as Lewis is
back off.
Give it to Thompson. Thompson has a little run on his own in the middle, spotting a bit of a gap, but CB pulls into the ground. That's 5 gone. Gee, there's no support over on the far side. McEwen away from the dummy half, across to Cherry, given to Ferguson. Ferguson towards the line, gives it to Danny Smith, and the pass ruled forward again. From Wayne Ferguson to Danny Smith, the pass ruled forward it was too, and that'll be a handover.
Well, a little bit of bad luck, but I suppose if you don't throw the ball forward, you don't deserve to score the try.
John McEwen a kick through in the play the ball. That should have been a penalty because the play the ball in the 6 tackle rule is a free tackle. McEwen kicking through again, trying to get possession back. The first play the ball after a handover is a free tackle. You're not allowed to kick strike.
Yep, and I believe Ian Roberts got away with that one yesterday too.
Goes away this time to Duff, trying to step his way up the middle, something similar to last week. He's 12 out from his own goal line. That try would have made it interesting, wouldn't it? Ferguson it was a good pass to get away, but unfortunately Smith had just overrun him. Anyway, taken down Ferguson, the tackle on Seavey. He'll get up to play it. Away it goes. On towards Collins. Collins back on the inside to Blake. Blake splits through. Good run from Laurie Blake. What did you say about the magic? There it is, but good tackle again, Danny Smith. There's been nothing wrong with his defence in the game. Played away, this time on towards Waldron. Waldron kicks for the touchline on the far side. Stevenson's going to let it roll over the touchline. Wattles back in their quarter again. So they were turned around.
Well, if Danny Smith didn't know how to tackle before today, he certainly learnt through necessity. How many times have we seen him faced by Blake, Beatson or Duff?
And a lot of times off an inside pass from Tony Collins. He's weaved magic on the game. He's turned Wattles back on the inside on too many occasions to mention, and they haven't woken up to it yet, and the game is 78 minutes old. 23-12 the scoreline in favour of Cities. Thompson, Cherry, dummies. Bartley grabs him and holds him on the quarterway. Excuse me. Little lemonade going down the wrong way. David Packer back to Thrupp. Thrupp stepping, but he steps back into a few of the tired Cities defenders who are 10 metres out from the quarterway and Wattles out of the ground. They were standing there, but Thrupp stepped back into them. Goodman away from the dummy half. He's 12 from halfway before he's pulled to the turf. He'll get up and play it. The Cities defence has held in the second half a little bit better than I thought it might have. John McEwen, the chip of the chase off, beautifully fielded by Eric Waldron, diving back to pull it down. Everything they've done today, particularly in this second half, has turned out for the good and turned out right as Ricky Jones runs away from dummy half. Slipped to the ground. I thought he might have copped a bit of a high tackle there from Goodman. I don't think it was meant as malice, just that as he was slipping, the arm came around. McEwen pulled Haddock to the ground, 12 metres away from halfway. Played away on the blind side to Russell Jones. He kicks for the touchline on the far side. It bounces over the head of Gary Ladbroke into touch.
The kicking certainly been a lot better in the second half too, Peter.
Yes, they didn't kick well in the first half, but you can't say that about the second half of the game. They've kicked marvellously.
Yep, through Eric Waldron and Tony Collins, Cities have certainly turned Wattles around.
Yes, Wattles, of course, have had to play or play to chase and catch-up football. Thompson takes the ball out of the scrum, but the scrum screws away from him. The referee's going to give a penalty to Wattles for that scrum infringement by Cities. Whatever it was, I can't tell you.
That evens the penalties up at 3
Darren
apiece.
Haddock pulling Neil Goodman to his feet there. So pretty comrade stuff even at the end of the game. There's been no malice in it whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I would hardly say there's been one punch thrown in the grand final.
No, it's been great in that respect.
Goes away to David Packer and up the centre runs Packer. He's on halfway before he's pulled down. He'll get up to play it. Played away to Thompson. His pass on towards Brett Green. Brett Green running a good tackle from Seavey, but Green stood and delivered to Lothian. Gave it to Stevenson. This time the hardest pass he's received all day. He pulled it in beautifully and made a break 10 metres from halfway into City's territory. Fallen on the tackle that time by Waldron and Duff. Played away on to McEwen. McEwen's pass on the outside to Ridge. Ridge, good tackle, Michael Seavey. Gee, he had a big second half. Coming to his own in the second half. It was obvious the young fellas were going to have to do some work. There's the final hooter. Gary Ladbrokes got possession. Out wide to Brett Stevenson. Stevenson puts the chip and the chase on. Taken out of the play after he kicked it. The full-time hooter is gone. It's all over. Cities are the premiers in 1990. They've beaten Wattles 23-12. Andrew Smith, I'll leave you to sum up the 1990 grand final in the season.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well, somewhat of an upset, I believe. Cities have certainly proved the critics wrong. Probably myself included, who didn't believe that Cities could go the full distance. 80 minutes. They certainly have done it today. Their second half performance, as far as I'm concerned, was better than their first half, although they scored more points, I believe, in the first half. Cities kept Wattles out. They're kicking. They turned them around well in the second half through kicking from Tony Collins and, of course, Eric Waldron. I thought Collins was probably my pick of the players on the field today, but really you couldn't pick out a bad player in that Cities side. I thought Warren Baker was very safe once again. Ricky Jones chasing when Cities had kicked through was incredible. I thought Eric Waldron had a great game. Dennis Beetson, his first half was just brilliant. He caused havoc with Waldron out in the Wattles back line. And, of course, Russell Jones on the other wing had a faultless display all through the match. Tony Collins, well, he weaved his magic. And that's all that we can say about Tony Collins, because he really did. How many times did we hear Beetson running off Collins or Laurie Blake running off Collins? And as Peter said throughout the match, most of them were through inside passes. Wattles didn't wake up to that probably until about the last 2 minutes. And by then, obviously, it was too late. The Cities forward pack certainly did the job, and I think this is where they set up the win. I think Cities were prepared to do the tough stuff in the forwards. I don't believe Wattles were prepared to do that. I think it may have been complacency, or it may have been the fact that they were suddenly playing grand final football and they needed to do it more than what they had throughout the season. But I think that's where Cities won. It was set up through the tough stuff in the forwards, and their backs certainly did the rest. My pick of the players, as I said before, was Tony Collins. For Wattles, I thought Danny Smith played reasonably well. A little bit lax at some times, but he'd certainly be having nightmares tonight, because I can't count the times that he was faced by City's attackers, 1, 2 or 3 of them, and him being back there by himself. Ladbroke was solid on one wing. Stevenson, well, Brett Stevenson didn't have his best game of the year, but he certainly played reasonably well. Darren Thrupp and Darren Lothian, I don't believe, were given the opportunities that they have received throughout the year. The Wattles back line really didn't do much at all, and I think this was because maybe their forwards didn't do the tough stuff early on. Russell Grilke, well, he was replaced by Bobby Thompson. I think Russell Grilke may be feeling the effects of that knee injury, which I think came back to him about 2 weeks ago. He wasn't to be seen while he was on the paddock. The forwards, I thought the best of their forwards was Brett Green. He got through a power of defence. I'm glad I wasn't taking his tackle count. David Packer tried hard, as did Ridge, Mark Packer, Neil Goodman and Johnny McEwen. But as I said, I don't think they did the tough stuff. Taking a look at the statistics, the scrums went Wattles' way by 10-8. The penalties 3 apiece. One of those penalties to Wattles was a scrum penalty. Cities did most of the kicking. They kicked about 10 times in general play, and in the second half, that was very, very effective. And Wattles kicked about 7 times, but their kicking today wasn't nearly as effective. I think maybe they possibly could have done a little bit more of it in hope of turning Cities around, but unfortunately for them they didn't. The 23 points for Cities goes tries to Waldron, Jones, Richters and Collins. A brilliant individual try by Tony Collins. He kicked 3 from 4. Eric Waldron kicked none from 1. Laurie Blake kicked a field goal for Cities. And for Wattles, McEwen and Lothian scored tries, and Peter Cherry kicked 2 from 3. I don't think I mentioned Laurie Blake in that summing up either, or Michael Seavey. I thought they both had great games, although we didn't see any real Blake magic as such, but he certainly had a great game. Michael Seavey really came into his own in the second half. He was superb, as was Graham Richters. Lewis was there all day, as was Mickleborough, said too. proving the critics wrong. Cities 23, Wattles 12. They take out the A-grade premiership for 1990 here in the Roma and District Rugby League competition. Taking a look at the other matches today, in the under-16s, Cities 12 defeated Roma 11. In the under-19s, Wattles 40 defeated Mitchell 0. And in the reserve grade, Cities 12 and Cities 20 rather, Wattles 12. So Cities had 3 sides in the grand final today and came away with 3 premierships. So certainly a good day for the boys in blue, the Gladiators. Plenty of partying going on out at Cities Oval tonight, I'm sure. I hope you have enjoyed our rugby league coverage throughout 1990. Thanks to Roma Gas Supplies, of course, Walsh's Takeaways, and most of all, Kentucky Fried Chicken for their support throughout 1990. This has been Andrew Smith on behalf of Peter Flynn and, of course, myself for the Better Mix of Music 4ZR.
Thank you.